The Morning Dump from Hurrdat Sports with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Good morning, everybody. DB, Andrew Rogers, Morning Dump time. I want to talk about this, though, now, because, you know, some of my best ideas come when I'm standing in the shower. Today's came when I was on the toilet taking my morning dump.
Yeah, that's TMI. TMI. Which, by the way, is a waste of time. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
What, TMI?
No, just
telling you?
just get
Sitting?
in, get out. Yeah.
Sitting? Reflecting?
Yeah, it's overrated.
So, unpopular opinion, and this is really unpopular. So just take recruiting off the table.
Can I?
Just take it off the table.
Okay.
Just remove it. Just pull it right off of the woodwork here. Is Mickey Joseph, and this is going to be very unpopular, is Mickey Joseph doing himself any favors for the head coaching job when he's competing in football games right now? So, before you butt in, would he be better off getting smoked and people, the noise that follows along, bounce back with, well, this is Scott Frost's team? I think it's honestly something to think long and hard about, because I'm sure fans are reflecting after that Minnesota loss, and you can really point out some of the rookie mistakes Mickey made in that game because he wasn't able to make adjustments right away. Now it's a learning lesson. Completely unpopular, because what everybody will end up saying is, well, you compete, you win football games, that's how you win this job. Or you need to build up experience so that you can learn from your mistakes as you move forward if and when you get this job. But is he doing himself any favors with the noise that kind of follows along with this big national coaching search?
Absolutely. I think he is. And for a couple of reasons.
For competing.
Yeah. I think competing has served him well because – you know, number one, emotionally where he's been able to get this team versus where they were, and I've seen it from kind of start to just today, right, being at practice this morning. But just that alone is a skill set that not a lot of coaches have, because remember, there's a couple of things working against Coach Joseph. Number one, this wasn't his job at the beginning of the year. That's number one. Number two, he is now overseeing and giving instructions to guys that used to be his peers, and vice versa if you're talking about a guy like Coach Whipple, which not all of us are cut with the ability to do that. And so I think you see a couple of things if you peel back the layers of the onion. Number one is humility. Number two is ability to relate to people. And number three, his ability to clearly cast a vision. Those are all attributes that I think you want from somebody in a position of leadership, and he's demonstrating that. Now, I know what the new criticism is. The new criticism is this. Well, he's the head coach. He should have, the teeth to play the quarterback that he wants, right? Like, that's kind of the thing, because we're over really what's happening in game, because we can see incremental improvements. Right,
you absolutely can.
They're better defensively than they were against Purdue. They were better against Minnesota than they were against Illinois. You can see growth there. Now, offensively, they've reverted back
Have
to
they
some
taken
degree.
a step back?
But they're doing it without the guy that their offense was built around in terms of Casey Thompson. So I actually think, if we're really honest about this thing, I think he's enhanced his portfolio. Because I think most people will tell you from a talent standpoint, whether you want to call it mismanagement in terms of development or mismanagement in terms of how they foresee the roster, he's finding a way to be competitive. So I don't, outside of, and by the way, for those that are like, oh, you should, is you have an offensive coordinator who is very set, and
dead set in his ways? Is that how you're referring?
I mean, very much so. And I think
you saw that at Pitt.
When you're not in it for the long haul, it can manifest itself in a variety of ways, and it can come across as selfish. I don't believe that that's Coach Whipple's intent. I think it's what we always talk about, Drew Down. Who are you when your back's against the wall. Like, what is your identity? What's the crux of who you are? And this is basically who Whip is in terms of his back being against the wall. So I know it's very frustrating from a fan base standpoint, but what he's doing is he's relying on his age in terms of the best thing that can yield results for this football team, and he's doing it from his lens. So you have to ask yourself, okay, well, what are my options? What are my options if, in fact, I really want Coach Whipple to quit, or I tell him to resign, or I say, hey, you know what, health has been an issue, go take some time off, and Coach Whipple doesn't want to do these things? What are my options? And so sometimes it's not just as easy as, you ever told somebody to get out or leave, or you wanted to kick your producer out of the studio, and then all of a sudden you're left and you're like, how do I turn this on? Right? Like, that's the reality of what's going on at the university. And so I think you have to give a little grace in terms of how you're critiquing that. And remember, the difference between an excuse and an explanation is ownership. See, excuses are everybody else's fault, and you're still trying to explain it, but you typically absolve yourself of responsibility. Mickey's not doing that when it comes to assessing this quarterback situation. It is on him, and he knows that he has to make that happen this week. I see exactly what he's saying in terms of trying to decide whether a guy's a gamer or in practice he gives you the best chance to win. Because I'm telling you, if you watch practice, Purdy looks like the better quarterback. He does. Doesn't manifest itself in games. So you're now at the point where you're thinking, all right, how do my Saturdays look? And that guy still has to have the same vote of confidence when he leads his team on Saturdays, because they have to be on board with it too. I played with a couple of gamers. Guys that weren't always great practice players. Now, coaches may disagree because they'll tell you they don't believe in gamers. Oh, coaches, nah, you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to earn the right to get on the field because you don't want to compromise the reality of yourself.
Sure.
But I think, full disclosure, man, we played with a couple of gamers. And so distinguishing that and moving those chess pieces, I think, is highly, highly difficult.
So then what gets Mickey the job then? And why is Nebraska waiting so long at this point?
Well, I think they're waiting because I don't think Mickey's going to be the guy. Right? Because if Mickey's the guy, you make the announcement.
Well, if you get a win against Michigan, if you win 2 games down the stretch, does that change?
No, I don't think so.
Has he impressed you enough or done
let me
enough
put it to you like this.
coach?
Whatever your mind was going in today, it's the same. If he was your guy before, he's your guy now. If he wasn't your guy then, he's not your guy now.
Then when you go down the stretch of recruiting now, right, how do you have conversations with high school athletes?
Because I'll tell you, that's a great question.
Well, I'm going to finish my question so that people can know where I'm going, because I know where you're going. You know where I'm going to get to with this. How do you have conversations with high school athletes to commit to this program where it's like a 50%, 60% chance that, hey, he's the head coach next year, or if you're tackling it from a different view, like I will be on staff? How do you still have those conversations?
I think he tells guys that he's recruiting that he'll be around. I just think that's the only way you can do it. And he's so authentic. I don't think it's contrived. And I'll tell you, I've seen with my own eyes the roster build-outs. I've seen 4 junior college offensive linemen that he has on the hook. I've seen a couple of wide receivers. I've seen 4 D linemen. I know how guys feel about him when he's on the recruiting trail. I know that there's only one guy that's on that roster right now in terms of coaching staff that has the ability to recruit the kids that are currently on that roster.
And it's him.
And that's Mickey Joseph.
So if it's not Mickey Joseph, then as head coach, who in your mind is head coach?
Well, it's got to be somebody that he better be able to work with.
Yeah.
Right? Because in my heart of hearts, and I mean this, Drew Down, I think he wants to be here. And I don't think it's necessarily from the perspective of a head coach. That'd be great, but he can't fight for something he doesn't have. But he can fight for what he wants, and that is the best for kids. Trust me when I tell you that. You hear it in everything he says. I can see guys knock on his door when he's in a staff meeting, and he'll say, hey, fellas, take 5. These guys are our most important commodity right now. I mean, just imagine doing that. Not, hey, come back and see me. Hey, guys, take 5. He's for young people, and I think young people will rally for guys like that because they want to be led.
You drilling in that take?
Yeah. I don't know what you use. Do you bolt it? Like, I'm so bad with power tools.
They're using a power drill. This is something that you use like a screw, like a long screw.
Sure.
Yeah, 100%.
An
An electric drill is a glorified handheld screwdriver.
Yeah, no, that I can understand. But I mean, like,
Dale, no power tools.
That's Portuguese to your boy. That's it.
Now, I like where you were going with all of those conversations and the path that you were taking there, because it leads me into this now. How do you retain Mickey Joseph? I'm not saying that you can't retain him, but how much are you throwing his way? What type of money are you throwing his way?
He's an associate head coach, and he's $1 million guy. I'm telling you, and you'll get the whole kit and caboodle. He's $1 million. He's $1 million coordinator, associate head coach, and you buy into his recruiting plan. You retain guys like Genta that are on staff now with that recruiting department, because I think he has a very good idea. He works well with Vince, and you bring in a couple of thoroughbreds. You try to keep Coach Bush. You maybe keep Coach Applewhite, and you go to work. And I think when you take a look at like his roster build out, like his plan long term, I think you can't help but to be blown away. Whether it's position guys, scholarship guys, guys on the hook. I mean, we're walking through preferred walk-on offers in terms of roster space and what he'll have left over if it goes situation X, Y, and Z. Now, I'm not making that up. I mean, these are real conversations that we've sat and had, so I know he has the utmost command of where that roster sits on November the 9th or 10th or whatever today is in 2022.
There you have it. DB's book of Mickey Joseph.
Listen, lock, stock, lock it up. $1 million. You tweak a couple of things from a recruiting standpoint. There's a couple coaches I think that the players will really rally around. Listen, you want Casey Thompson and Trey Palmer and some of these guys to stay around, you keep Mickey Joseph. That much I know for sure. And it's not just the offensive guys.
And that's the only way to do it, is by having him.
You're not hurt by it.
No, but he is the person in the program these players can trust.
No, there's
it's like a father
zero
figure.
question about that. Literally.
Mm-hmm.
I'd tell you a couple personal stories, but I'm not going to put those players out on Front Street. But that's not hyperbole. When you say that, that is not hyperbole. Kids want to be led.
It's kind of in their nature to be led.
They want to be led.
A kid in itself, if you gave a definition of
his
a kid.
His family loves it here. His wife loves the educational system. I've said this before. His kids love school. They love the city of Lincoln. It's definitely doable. It's not insurmountable. Not even a reach.
You can filibuster this all you want.
Do I make you a believer?
You did.
I'm a believer.
You did.
Maybe you can teach me how to use power tools.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
I mean, it's just all election terms day, right?
Yeah.
I had to throw another one in there. Filibuster?
Yeah. Well, Shane's a human filibuster. You ever listen to him tell a story?
No.
He'll kill that thing.
It's prolonged.
Oh, good question.
That's the story of my life.
My man.
Prolonged.
If you have any afterthoughts on this, send them into Hurrdat Sports. We'd like to hear from you. I took a lot of questions that I've been hearing over the course of time, and when I say course of time, it's a short course over the last week or so, of questions that I've heard what Husker fans ask, or even just afterthoughts on Twitter following the Minnesota loss. Things like that I brought here because I knew there was only one person that could really answer these questions wholeheartedly, and that was DB. So keep sending those questions in. We'll keep finding those. We'll make them a matter of conversation on this show, and we'll make sure to put you, the listener, on the forefront of every conversation as well. For DB, Andrew Rogers, that's your morning dump. Wipe, get on with your day. We will see you tomorrow.